have troubles with your attitude. You don't pay enough attention in class. You don't know what the word study means. Get the right idea. Don't you realize that mathematics is an important subject?
Wait till I tell you everything.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pod Sound School podcast. From how to plan, produce, launch, and promote your podcast to how to achieve professional audio, we have everything you need so you can start your podcast today or you can improve the podcast that you already have. And I am Veronica.
Yes, and I'm Studio Steve. And we're excited about this episode today because we're talking all about how you can use live streaming to expand your podcasting audience and to have a bigger reach with your podcasting.
Yes. So if you've been following our podcast episodes, we've been aiming our efforts to convince podcasters to get on board with getting their faces out there and using video to promote their shows and to grow their audience. Because that's something that has worked for us. I would say that our podcast listeners have doubled since we've been recording our podcast episodes live.
Yeah.
And on this episode, we're going to be talking about live streaming videos.
Yes, live streaming. So we're going to share with you the tools and software that we use, that we've experimented with, that we would suggest for you, that are both affordable options and also easy to use. And we're also going to share some tips and tricks. So make sure you stick around till the end of the episode. You won't want to miss all the tips and tricks we have to hopefully save you a ton of headache that you're going to come across when you start incorporating live video into your marketing strategy. Okay,
But before we move on, let's tell our audience about Patreon.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. So if you've been listening each week and if you really enjoy the content and if you're finding it helpful in growing your podcast enterprise, help us out by supporting us over on Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/podsoundschool. We'll also leave the link in this episode's description, and the link is also available on podsoundschool.com/links, where that's where you can find our YouTube channel, all of the podcast directories, everything you need to find. A very simple click. So Patreon's really cool. We call it our Overachievers Club over there, and it's just a way that you can donate a small pledge every month and help us out to keep the doors open and continue to provide free podcast coaching and content for Podskis. So come over there and help us out.
Yeah, support us.
Support us.
We need your help.
Yes. Okay, well, why don't we get into it?
So point number one is, are you ready to go live?
Yes. Are you ready to go live? So with this, the first point is, are your social media platforms set up and optimized? Are they looking good? Because the first thing that going live is going to do is attract people to your social platforms that you're going live on, right? Before bringing them into becoming fans of your podcast or listeners of your show.
Yeah, so think about, are you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Which platform are you most familiar with? And then the other thing that you need to think a little bit is about, are your social media accounts optimized? Do they reflect what your brand or your podcast is about? All the information you want to share with people, is it described in a clear and understandable way on your profile, on your bio statements? The profile picture is also important because it reflects your brand and it reflects the colors of your brand and all that. You need to make sure before you go live that you have all of those things put in place, as well as the link in bio. If you're going to be sending people to the link in bio, just make sure that all your links are functioning and that you are directing people to the right place and that they're all working.
Yeah. And then the next thing with best practices is having a well-structured call to action in mind. So what is your call to action? Are you trying to get people to come over and listen to your podcast? Are you trying to get people to come and support you on Patreon? It's good to usually pick one. In a long podcast episode, you can do a couple calls to action or call to actions. Is it calls to action or call to actions?
Call to actions.
You like that one better?
CTAs?
Yeah, CTAs.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got lost there.
Yeah, so make sure that every time you go live is with a purpose. Don't go live just because. Go live when you have something to share. Go live when you have an outline and you have a structure and some points that you want to share with your audience and that you want to share that information with your audience. It doesn't matter what kind of podcast you have. It doesn't matter what kind of business you have. There's always something that your audience is going to be interested in. So, for example, if you have an interview podcast or if you have a true crime podcast, then you want to go live and maybe you want to tell your audience what the next podcast episode is about and what they're going to learn and like pique their curiosity and get them on board with what's coming up for you and for your show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have a format, a call to action.
Yes.
And just make sure that you mention your call to action at the beginning of your live streaming because not everybody's going to stay the whole time.
Yeah, and maybe even mention it a few times through your live streaming.
A few times through the live streaming and at the end before you finish.
Before you wrap up.
Before you wrap up.
And depending on your software, and again, we'll talk about that, you can also include your call to action in graphical content that is, an overlay there in your live video as well. Right? Yeah. So cool.
Another thing that can help, and this is for those of you who are just so nervous to go live, who are just like, no, there's no way I'm going to do it. Then there's a trick because I used to be like that and Steven used to be like that too. It helps when you invite somebody over to your live. Streaming. So if you are interviewing somebody or if you have the opportunity to have somebody there with you who can give you that extra boost of confidence or who can like jump in when you're struggling a little bit to find the words, then that is just perfect.
One of the best things about going live, and we touched on this a couple episodes ago, is that it really makes you aware of your audience. So often when we're podcasting, we just get so caught up in the conversation with our co-host and with our guests that we sort of forget that there's going to be people listening to this, right? Potential lot of people listening to it. So going live is really cool because it makes you aware of that. And even if there's only a few people popping in and out of your live streams, it still just adds that sense of, oh, wow, there's people watching us right now, which for us has made our performance more mindful, more engaging, more animated, and more fun to go live. And so we've noticed that with the way our podcast episodes come out sounding. They sound more...
And then the other thing that I can help you with is to stick to a schedule. You know that you have your audience on Wednesdays at noon or 2 o'clock, and you know that no matter what, you have to have your podcast episode prepared. Or if you, whatever you're doing that week, you have to that date with your audience that you have to be prepared and you're nurturing and growing your community. And that's another advantage of going live.
Yeah. And then, so with another best practice that you might want to think about doing is practice in small chunks. And our next point that we're going to talk about is different ways that you can go live. But before we talk about that, when you first go live, consider just going live on maybe your least popular social platform.
Yeah, and I know that you disagree about that yesterday.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think that it's good for your first ones. And then once you get confident with going live, then you should go on your most popular one.
So we started going live on our Facebook group when our Facebook group have like 50 members. And that was just perfect because we made so many mistakes. I mean, we have people telling us like, remember that green screen that you did?
Oh, no. If you haven't joined our Podcasting for Bosses Facebook group, you should go over there and watch me humiliate myself before I take that video out of there. I thought I'd get creative with the green screen and go strolling on the beach, Oh, no. So embarrassing. And the music was, you couldn't even hear anything I was saying,
Yeah, the music was so loud. It was hard to understand. He has these birds in the back and he was just like wearing a suit.
No.
You were wearing a suit at the beach.
It was a date with Studio Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, that's something that we would advise you to do. Try to go live on a platform that you don't have a lot of following.
Yeah, so start with that, and then also don't start necessarily with your whole podcast episode live.
Yeah.
Maybe just do different types of videos. Do smaller videos. Just go live for a little bit and get comfortable with it. Just talk with people, just go live and see what happens,
Just do little chunks. Start with little chunks and see who jumps in and interacts with you, and that just will give you that confidence. The more you do it, the more you choose to go live longer or to record your podcast episode live. That would be like the ultimate thing, the ultimate repurposing thing is just to record
the ultimate form of repurposing
is
just
to
go live with your whole podcast,
like us.
Okay, cool. Well, let's move on
because we have more interesting stuff coming up.
Yeah, we have a lot more interesting stuff. So number 2 is
different ways to go live.
So we mentioned recording your podcast live. That's one. You can do the whole setup and record your podcast live. The other thing that you can do is like to do small chunks of live streaming. And then the other thing that you can do is Q&As. Just announce them before you go live. Another thing that you can do is to talk about past episodes or podcast episodes that that have been very popular or have
evergreen content.
Evergreen content, or have some kind of controversy. So if you announce it and hey, tomorrow I'm going to go live and I'm going to be talking about this podcast episode because I've had a lot of questions about it. So there's just
there's so many ways you can
There's
go
so many
live.
ways you can go live.
And that one's a really good one if you're looking for something to get your feet wet with live, is go through some of your old podcast episodes and look for some evergreen content. And that's repurposing right there too, right? Especially if you have show notes or if it's something you're really familiar with.
Yeah, so if you're going to go live to record your podcast episode, that requires a little bit more of a technical setup. If you're doing just a short Q&A or a promotion live video, then you can just hold your phone in front of you and do it that way. It doesn't need...
Or put your phone on a tripod.
Put your phone on a tripod and start talking to your audience. Yeah,
and I can't recommend the tripod enough. It's that one thing alone when you're first going live. At least put your phone on a tripod. And then second, get yourself a light.
Yes. So number 3.
Choosing your social media platform.
So if you're going to go live on Instagram, for those of you who are not very familiar with Instagram and who are new to Instagram, there's a way you can access your live streaming to go live on Instagram, and that's through your stories. And if you click on your profile picture, then it's going to open up stories for you. And then there's a scroll menu at the bottom of your screen, and then you scroll it until you find the live streaming. And then you just tap on that live streaming and it starts streaming for you. There's also a way that you can bring people over to your live streaming videos, other people on Instagram. So let's say you and your co-host want to answer some Q&A. So what you do is that once one of you goes live, then there's 2 little faces at the bottom of the screen. Then you tap on that, and then it takes you to a screen, and then you're going to see the people who are live. That person needs to go on your live streaming, and then once they are on your live streaming, then you tap on those 2 little faces, and then you choose them from the go live with menu. And that way you can share the live streaming with that person. But that it's in the case that person isn't with you in the same location. Because if you are, then you can just use one phone, right?
Yeah, you can just use the one phone.
Because if you use 2 phones, the problem we had last week is that 2 phones in the same area.
If you use 2 phones in the
place,
same area or the same room. So if your co-host is in the same location with you, if it's possible, if you could get into 2 different rooms, then you can do Instagram Live as if you were inviting a guest on, and you just invite your guest on from your living room, and you're in your podcast studio.
I guess, you can do that.
You could do it like that. Or if you're just like what Veronica and I are doing right now on Instagram Live, is she's just flipping the camera around whenever I talk or whenever she talks. She's just kind of the camera person there on Instagram Live. And the big things with Instagram Live is that they don't support streaming softwares or codes or anything, codec coming from any other location other than your phone. Now, there are some hacks that people do, and we experimented with a lot of the hacks. They all have a tremendous amount of headache involved. One that I found was kind of working, you really need to use on a PC. So most of the hacks, if you're going to try to hack in and actually use your streaming software into Instagram Live, are going to be on a PC or with an Android phone.
Yeah, however, Instagram is very picky. Before you use any software or any app are going to be connected to Instagram, make sure that it's approved. And for this, you can go on Facebook and there's a place where they can tell you what are the authorized apps and softwares that Instagram allows for stuff like that.
Yeah, and if you don't do that, they will penalize
Bang you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've been penalized. We're actually penalized right now on Instagram.
We are.
I'm surprised we're able to go live.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's wonderful, though. At
Yeah.
least they let us do that. So that's great. And then the other platform you can go live on is Twitter, which is where you started on. And I love that. Twitter allows you to go live using the streaming software, but it also lets you go live on your phone, too. So it's a great place to start. But Twitter also, they own a company called Periscope. So Periscope is, you have to set up an account with them. It's not very difficult, very easy. And then you're ready to go live on Twitter. And you actually go live through Periscope or Periscope TV. And people can discover you there as well, which is pretty cool. And then the other place you can go live is on YouTube. Now, going live on YouTube first requires you to have a YouTube channel set up. But YouTube is definitely going to favor using streaming software and having a higher quality live stream. Your live streaming is going to perform better there. And then the list just goes on and on.
Yeah.
You know, you have, if you're into gaming, you've got all the gaming live streaming hubs that are very popular. You have Twitch, Discord. There's tons of social places to go live. There's YouNow, I believe it's called, which is a little creepy for me. That's where a lot of the young kids are hanging out. So there's lots of places that you can go live. And when you're choosing your social platform, like Veronica, we mentioned, there's the platforms that you might not have a lot of presence on. Those are the ones I would do to practice with. But when you really got your live presentation down and you and your co-host and your whole podcast episode is ready to go, then pick your main platform, your baby that all your listeners are on, and go live there consistently. And then the other thing is you can go live to multiple platforms all at the same time.
Yeah.
And
But then the other platform that you forgot to mention was Facebook.
Oh, Facebook, obviously.
Facebook
yes,
is the
yeah.
easiest one. I mean, you just have to click on the tab on the live streaming button and then you're going to go live.
Yep.
Then if you have a Facebook group, it's even better. You want to do a lot of video in your Facebook group. You want to do a lot of live streaming because the more activity, the more videos, and the more live streaming you do on your Facebook group, then the more Facebook is going to recommend your group.
Yes.
Because that's what's happening to us. Like we're going live once a week. So our Facebook group Broadcasting for Buses is being pushed more since
Yeah.
we've been doing that.
Yeah, let's bust into number 4.
Choosing your software and your equipment.
With the software and equipment, luckily there's a lot of free options, and there is a great article that I just love from Epiphan Video, and I will leave a link to it. You can go to epiphan.com and they have a blog there. Epiphan also sells a lot of live streaming equipment, top of the line live streaming equipment as well. But they have a great article, and it's called Best Live Streaming Software for 2019. I'll leave a link for that in this episode's description. A good portion of the top 7 that they mention in this article are free, and then some of the other ones can cost you some money. So I'll just kind of go through them. There's OBS Studio. OBS is free. And then there's Streamlabs OBS, and that's also free. There's one called XSplit. That's easy to use, but that is for Windows only. And then, of course, there's Wirecast, which is what we use. And Wirecast is expensive, is one of the drawbacks, and it's resource intensive, meaning that you have to have a computer with a lot of RAM in order to process your video. Another very popular one is called the vMix. V is in Victor Mix. And then there's NVIDIA Showplay and Lightstream, worth mentioning. So definitely check out the article. And then the other considerations when it comes to live streaming that you need to consider is your network bandwidth. And that is, how good is your internet? You're going to need to have pretty good internet. Now, on your phone, and if you're just going to Instagram and stuff, they optimize it for the most part. But once you get into using the streaming software... Oh, and I want to back up. I forgot to mention StreamYard. StreamYard's really cool. A lot of podcasters are using StreamYard, so definitely check that out as well. That wasn't in this article. Anyway, so do you have good bandwidth? And especially when you get into using the streaming software, you're going to need to have a good amount of upload speed and a good amount of download speed. System requirements is another thing you need to think about. And if you have a newer computer, most of the time they optimize it for that. But you can always check the system requirements from the software when you're purchasing it or downloading it. There's always a place that says system requirements or specifications from a link there. And it will tell you what OS X, if you're using a Mac, you need, or what version of Windows you need to be using, and how much RAM you have. And if you don't know any of that stuff, you can Google it pretty easily. On a Mac, you can go to the little picture of the Apple in the top left corner, and there's an About This Mac. And if you click on the About This Mac, it'll tell you all about your computer, how much RAM it has, and all of that, and what software you're using. And I can't remember how you access that on Windows. But
that is just so important that you spend some time making sure that your computer is going to support the software, because it happens that you have your mind set up on going live, and you've been preparing psychologically and and mentally for this moment, and you've been preparing your content, you have your outline ready, you are all pretty, got your best shirt on, and then you go live and the whole thing crashes. And then you will be throwing a fit.
yes.
Not to say that somebody has done it in the past.
I've never thrown a fit in my 23 years of life. I've never once thrown a fit. I'm a very mature 23-year-old man. So
You lie about your freakouts and you lie about your age.
Let's just be very honest.
That's that double whammy.
On our last
Did
episode.
I use that correctly? A
On
double
our last
whammy.
episode, you will remember me saying that I am the diva, remember? And I was apologetic in my tone about my freakouts. So, yeah, with your software, and then you get into your equipment. With your equipment, I would recommend, and I think it's always good to start small and then
Yes.
incrementally go up. But like our friend on Twitter said, why not just dive all in, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what I did. And just humiliate yourself all at once.
Just go all
and just pull your hair out, lose a lot of hair, and then
And lose a
you're
lot
good to
of
go after a while.
followers.
Yeah, and
They'll
even
come back.
maybe lose your significant other.
All the things
or
that
your
we're
host.
loving, if you want to achieve professional audio, if you want to use your professional microphones to go live on Instagram, then you can use this thing called iRig.
Yes, it's called iRig.
It's called the iRig. What does it do again?
So the iRig's really cool, and we do have a link that I'm going to leave in this podcast episode. Definitely check it out, and it's going to tell you all about all this equipment we're mentioning. And the iRig is basically meant for guitarists. It's a way that you can plug your guitar into your phone, but it also allows you to plug any line level input into your phone, which means you can take the headphone output of your computer and plug it into your phone. And if you have your podcast episode already recording into your computer, then that's a really good method of getting your podcast microphones routed into your phone, which is what we have going on right now into Instagram. And it's very easy, and it's like $30 for an iRig. So it's a cool way to up your Instagram production with some better quality audio. And it's another perfect little implementation into your process that's really nice to do because you're already sitting there recording your podcast, right? Why not just get a headphone splitter? If your audio interface only has one headphone output, you can get a headphone splitter. And then the other equipment that you're definitely going to want to get is some ring lights. We love the ring lights, or you could also get a softbox light as well. And I have some links on the link you click in for this episode's description. There's a few ring lights ranging from like $25 up to $100. And they're great. We love our ring lights. They take the shadows off your face, and they really help to feel more confident.
Yeah.
And that's
They
what
make
it's
you
all
look
about.
younger.
Makes you look younger. So you're going to want a little bit of lighting. And then, again, when we talk about system requirements, the other thing you might consider here is hardware. So if you're using streaming software on your computer and your computer can't quite handle it, or there's things that you want to do, you want to incorporate lots of different cameras plugged into your computer, you might need to get hardware, streaming hardware that allows you to plug all those cameras into it, and then it does the processing power of encoding that video the way it needs to be encoded before it's broadcasted. It does all that magic, and then it sends it to your network and sends it. Many of the pieces of hardware actually link up to your social accounts, and they'll send it to multiple social accounts all at the sociable. And send it to multiple social accounts all at the same time. This is my new podcast voice, okay? Damn it. Oh,
Oh, yeah, Jai. We're PG.
We're going downhill fast. Why is it that whenever you swear and you've made it like a point in your head not to swear, and then you swear about swearing to make it worse?
I don't know. I've never done it.
I know, because you're a very good girl. Anyway, so that's it really with the equipment you're going to need. And then the other thing is webcams.
You're filthy.
Right. So, and this gets into when we're podcasting. If you are podcasting from your phone, if you're just starting from your phone, then that's fine. You can still go live, not necessarily while you're recording your podcast at the same time. But Podbean is making a live platform that you can do, and Spreaker has one of those
Spreaker too, right? Like
that you can do from your phone. And
we haven't tested those out.
We haven't tested those two platforms
I wonder
out
if
yet.
you can go live while recording your podcast
I
using
believe
the
so.
Spreaker app.
Through the Spreaker app, which is called Spreaker Studio, and then also through the Podbean app as well, which is really cool. We haven't tested those out yet. We're going to, and when we do, we'll probably make a video about it and everything else. So, but eventually in your podcasting journey, you are going to upgrade to a computer if you don't own a computer. The majority of podcasters have access to some type of a computer. A good majority of the time, I would argue that those are laptops, right? Because it's multi-use. You can justify it to your spouse or your significant other or whatever, or your parents. You can justify it because you use it for other things too. And most laptops have a camera now on the front of them, so you could just use that. And then there's webcams, and the most common webcams you'll find are the Logitech ones. There's all sorts of other equipment. There's also this really cool live piece of equipment I just found that I also will put into the link of this episode that has a USB microphone, a camera, and a little ring light all in one unit. It's like $250, $300.
And a pop filter.
Oh, and a pop filter, yeah, on top of the USB condenser mic. So there's lots of different equipment you can use, but you can start implementing new pieces of gear over time, and most of the time people are just using their cameras that come with their phone or with their computers now, which makes live video easier and more affordable than ever. And then with StreamYard or with Wirecast or any of the softwares that I mentioned, you can invite people into your streaming software. You guys can all connect there for a minute, talk for a minute, say, okay, we ready to go live? And then you press the go live button and you're live on multiple platforms all at the same time. So there's definitely a lot of learning involved, and that's why you really need to be ready for that headache. And so just to go back into what we were saying with the mindset and is start small if you want to save the headache and the humiliation.
Yeah, ease into it.
Ease
Baby
into it.
steps.
Or you can do what Studio Steve did and just dive into it. Pick the most expensive software to start with and just humiliate yourself and, just make a complete ass of yourself for the whole world to see. And then
An arse.
an arse.
He's an arse.
That's the other thing about swearing. It's not offensive if it's in a Scottish accent. Okay, so finally, as we're wrapping up the episode,
Yes.
A couple administrative things too. Just want to let you guys know that we're taking 2 weeks off for the holidays. So there's going to be one more episode next week, one more
Yes.
podcast episode, and then we will miss you horribly
Yes,
for 2
but
weeks.
we're planning season 3 for the Pod
Yes.
Sound School podcast, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Yes, and season 3
Working harder.
is going to be crazy. We're totally rethinking everything. We're getting experimental, and in addition to that, we're also...
we have recorded a couple of episodes so far, and they are going to be touching on subjects that you don't want to miss.
Yes, exactly. It's going to be amazing. So we're really excited about season 3. We're excited about the new year. We're also very
We're excited we
about...
made it this far.
Yeah, it's incredible. And we're
Like-
so thankful for all of you guys for tuning in so much.
Yes.
And really excited about your podcast growing. And if you're just starting a podcast, make sure you come say hi to us on social. Slide into Veronica's DMs on Instagram.
Slide.
Come
Sliding.
say hi to me on Twitter. Let us know the name of your podcast. Let us know how you're doing, and we'll retweet you. We'll show you some love, and we'll check out your podcast episode because we really want to see you grow. We want to see your ideas develop and become the best version and give your voice a place to exist.
Yes.
So cool. It's been fun. And until next time, guys, happy casting.
Happy casting, amigos.
Wasn't some valuable learning experiences.
intellect for which learners see a purpose provides its own discipline.